Hello, my friends. In today's episode, Pete and I are talking about how to show up as a new leader. We talk about how to lead with humility, how to earn people's trust. So if you are a new leader or you're leading a new team, this is a great episode for you. Keep on listening. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. Today, I'm here with Pete. How are you, my friend?
I am well. How are you, Michael?
Yeah, I'm having a pretty good day. I was sick for the last 2 days, but I'm coming back around at full 70% energy today. So good day to sit and podcast.
I'd say 70% of any MFF related energy is like 130% of everyone else's. So we're good.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, before we dive into today's topic, which came from someone on Instagram, I want to just give a quick shout out to our listeners that if you are not on our email list yet, like, what are you doing? And I say this as someone who is not on many email lists, but I think our email list, is putting out some great content on a regular basis. Like every email we put out seems to be chock full of great actionable ideas. Pete, there's an email from Pete once a week. Pete, what can people expect from your emails?
Oh man, well I was messaging back and forth with Craig today because he asked me about an email draft that's set to go out tomorrow. We record this on Tuesdays and I hit on Wednesdays. And he said, "I'm not sure I fully understand the terminology here because you mentioned the pages ahead." And I was like, "Craig, you pulled what was like a shitty first draft of a potential introduction to all of this being a book and just decided to make the weekly email. I'm going to need to rework this one." But
yeah,
I mean, there's everything in those emails. I took the liberty of reviewing the next 10 days or so of subject matter that we're churning out because I had to pull from that document when Craig asked me to modify. And it's crazy how much we give away is what I would say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff in there.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. We're sharing all kinds of tips from all the courses we teach. We're sharing lessons learned from working with all of our Unicorn Society members. We got Mark's YouTube. We got this podcast, another podcast. We also do a weekly roundup on Saturdays now. So if you just want, to archive them all, but on Saturday, look at the roundup for the week. We tell you all the content we've created throughout the week in one summary, which I think is huge. So if you want to join our email list, go to businessforunicorns.com. Go opt in at the top of the page there. Join our email list, and I promise it's going to be one of the ones in your inbox that you'll be looking forward to because I think there's a lot of high quality content.
Yeah, do it just for the Saturdays. I miss the old John Goodman, the Ptdc weekly roundup. I remember I had an
I remember that one too.
Featured in there. I always wanted my blog to be in there back in the day.
Yeah,
and since they've killed it, or at least I think they killed it. There's a hole in the market for this, and yours could fill that. It's a nice collective recap.
Yeah. We're starting right now with a roundup of just our content, but we've already talked about expanding it to other content throughout the industry. So again, just even if you want to join, as Pete said, just for the Saturday ones, I think it's a really great summary of great actionable content every single week. Cool. Well, let's dive in. This question comes from Instagram. I know the person. I think they DM'd us through their business account, but this person asks, any advice we have for taking over an existing gym where you don't know anyone. So this person is taking over and starting to run an existing gym that's already been in place where they're coming in kind of quote blind, not knowing anyone. And I think for the sake of us giving advice, let's just assume they don't really know the staff and they don't really know the clients, but they're coming in and maybe bought this gym that already exists. I don't know. I think this was a fun question. So let's dive in. Where immediately does your brain go, Pete?
My brain wants to know who buys something sight unseen like this. But let's say
fun. Can I say a fun fact? Yeah. Fun fact about this. I learned recently, I have a friend who's a dentist, and apparently it's very common in dentistry to buy a practice, including all the staff and all the clients, without really knowing any of them, just jumping in. I have a friend who did it a few years ago, running a very successful practice, and literally just like you find a broker and you buy the place, and then you kind of show up one day and they introduce you as the new owner. Like there's some industries where that's very common, less common in fitness, but I had the same question when I read that. I was like, wait, people just will buy a spot? Yeah, but It's
Yeah, I think if I
happening.
were a franchise owner, I could see myself, say, eating up some additional Orange Theories or something like that if I was
Mm,
already in the game. But this is also in my
yeah.
family business, Michael. I mean, the family business, which is a dying industry but still exists, is home heating oil. And
Oh, yeah.
my uncle's the only one left in the game because they collectively got
Mm,
our generation out because they said it's a dying industry. The
yeah.
fossil fuels isn't really the path forward. But when he wants to scale, he needs to acquire economies of scale in his buying power. And he does just that.
Yep.
He buys up basically, he's just buying a list, but he does tend to get equipment and bodies with it. And I think that the rules that we will suggest here for gym acquisition will apply there as well, because we're talking about accumulating talent. And basically, this comes down to how do you evaluate the talent and how do you show up with, I'd say, the humility it takes to earn trust quickly.
Mm,
And in this case, I'm talking about with your team, because I think you need to get your team in lockstep before you start worrying about helping the community, because you can't fix the community yourself, and the team becomes the extension of you from the moment you make the acquisition. So I think my first piece of advice is not to forget about the clients, but to put the team ahead of the clients on your hierarchy of initiatives. Maybe you
yeah.
completely
Yeah.
disagree.
Well said. No, I'll yes, I'll plus one that. Can I ask a follow up question?
Yeah.
When you say kind of come in with humility, can you just talk more about like what that actually looks like? When you're coming in to try and invest in your team, what does it mean to come in with humility?
Well, I imagine you've been hired into a new division. Let's say you're in corporate
Mm-hmm.
and you
Mm-hmm.
have the gravitas to get a leadership role in the org as a whole. I use
Yeah.
this terminology because my wife talks to me about Salesforce and her experience every day, and they're always hiring.
Yep.
And sometimes you're told you've got to hire internally within the organization as a whole, but you got somebody who's coming in and maybe has not been under your specific arm of the operation.
Yeah.
They've earned the time there to have oversight of a team, but they're showing up and they don't fully understand the service they're selling or the community they're serving or the client roster. And nobody knows that better than the people that they are about to supervise. And as
Mm-hmm.
stupid as it sounds, this happens every day of the week in corporate.
Yeah.
It happens constantly. And the ones who come in with the attitude, I'm king shit, I just got hired to be your boss, here's how things are going to go around here, are going to fail because their team, whether they like who they've acquired or not, are either going to stay on board and passive aggressively work, they're going to do their job, but they're going to hate the new guy who came in disrupting
Yeah.
their cadence, or they're just going to look for an alternative option. They're going to look elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to be rebuilding a team when you don't even understand what a good team member looks like. When you don't understand what success looked like in that unit before you got there. So you have to show up prepared to say, I don't know what I don't know, but I'm an accomplished leader of people, and
Mm-hmm.
earn their trust from there. I'm
Yeah.
interested
I
in
think
your
it's,
two cents, though, because you're the person I'd go to for coaching on this if I found myself in that circumstance.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so beautifully said, right? Like a part of going in and getting your team in order first is going with a humility that they know a lot more than you do on day one. Right. And going in, asking a lot of questions, being really curious. And I'll go even further that I think the first thing I was going to share is kind of a plus one of that, or the next level of that is not only do you need to go in curious, but I would say that in the first few days and weeks, you want to go in and celebrate what already exists. Like, you want to go in and be the biggest possible cheerleader for how great the team already is, for how amazing the clients and community already is, and then you can position yourself as a steward of what already exists and someone who hopefully will make it even better, right? Because the last thing people want in a new manager and a new leader in any context is someone who comes in like a bull in a china shop on day one, swinging around their ego, tell everyone, how much, what their vision is for the future. It's like, well, hold on, dude. How do you know what the vision is for the future? Before you've got to know us, do you even know what we want the future to be? So not only do you go with the humility, but I think even more than that, I would say go in celebrating celebrating what already exists, making sure people feel seen and heard for the good job they've already been doing, for the community they've already built, for the connections they already have. And I think with that humility, you might be invited to participate. You might be invited in, right? They might be so glad you're there because they felt so seen and heard by you, that you become part of what already exists before you start becoming a change agent, right? Like so you have to win, to your point, win their trust, win their trust before they trust you to be a steward of their community. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think
your
we're
vision
saying
of the future doesn't matter if you don't understand the present.
yeah, that's it. And I think it's the number one challenge. I think even, I guess to expand this advice to not just people who are taking over a new gym, but any new person who's in a new job, especially a management or leadership job, in the first few weeks and months, I think you do exactly what Pete says. You go in humble, asking lots of questions, having lots of humility, treating all of them like the experts, and also celebrate all the great things that they're already doing. Find things they're doing well and celebrate those. Because, what people need when they're forming new relationships to be positive ones is they need praise. They need to know that you like them, and on the basis of that, you can accomplish so much. But if you go in day one pointing out what's wrong and sharing how you're going to change things, I think you lose so many people. And I've seen it happen. And I've done it. I've done it in my early management days, where I would go in and I thought what everyone needed from me as the new manager was to share all my ideas on day one. Mm-hmm. Everyone's like, well, slow up, dude. We tried that a year ago. That doesn't not going to work. Why don't you listen for a little while first? And that's, I think, what Pete and I are recommending here. Yeah. What else comes to mind as important in those first few months?
Well, let's make it actionable.
Great.
If I were to acquire a new operation with a new team right now, mm-hmm. the first thing I would do is I'd take the playbook we have in place with our coaches in Unicorn Society, where we publish our superpowers.
Yep.
Right. So new member Unicorn Society. I had it happen today. Someone said, I have my first call with Wheels tomorrow. What should I talk to Wheels about? I want to make sure I optimize it. And I said, hey, we've already done this homework. We have a bullet pointed list of really what we excel at. I would read that thoroughly and believe it to be true, because we didn't just throw a bunch of shit at the wall and declare new areas of expertise. We actually collectively talked about it. I'd walk in with my new team and I'd meet with them all individually. And I'd say, what are your superpowers? I want you to pat yourself on the back. What are you world class at? And then I would ask them to tell me 1, 2, 3 things that they see as superpowers of their peers. And I'd figure out where the overlap exists. Because when I start seeing it once, that might be somebody who has a false perception of where their strengths lie. But when I start to see the same thing show up 2, 3, 4 times, then I know what I'm going to leverage as far as skill sets go. Yeah. And I would ask the community to kind of audit themselves and their peers. And I'd take all that information, put it in the same place, and I'd map the superpowers of my team and start thinking about how I can allocate their kind of human resources the most effectively, so that people feel like they're winning. And I know that we are doing what we can with what we have right out of the gate. Yeah. And that's not a huge ask. That's a cup of coffee with anywhere from 1 to maybe we'll say 10 people. I don't know how big we're talking team wise, but I'm going to assume our audience doesn't have coaching staffs of in excess of 10 bodies. And if they do, sorry, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah, I think that's so smart. I think, it's getting people on your side by celebrating for who they are and what they're good at. And that goes for your team. That also goes for your clients, right? Take 5, 10 clients to lunch, to coffee, get to know them, get to know, the super connectors in your community. Getting to know them gives you all the data you need for making the change you might want to make. Right. But you need to know where are all the levers and pulleys hidden? Who are the people who are going to be the ones who have influence over this community to make the change? Because then I think, for me, if I'm going to be actionable about where I put my energy and resources, I think all of that. So this is all that. And for my team, I would want to solve some of their problems early on. I want to find what has been not working for you in this job, in this role for a while. And can I find some quick wins? Can I solve something that the previous owners just never solved for whatever reason? Can I prove to you in the first few months with my actions and my words that I'm actually interested in you having a better experience with me at the helm than you had with the previous person? Not to demean them, but to say, like, listen, I am coming in hoping to make things better. And that goes for all of you. What are some things that are not working for you? Do you need new equipment, new resources? Is time off confusing? Is pay shit? What is the thing that's the biggest pain point? And can I come in and start making some progress on that? Because once they see the results of your good intentions, once they see your good intentions put into action that makes a difference for them, then you can take them anywhere. You can lead them anywhere that you want to go.
Yeah, be a giver, not a taker, right out
of
the gate.
Yeah. 100%. It goes to Adam Grant's book, Givers and Takers. I think it's a good one to read in this context. All right. Anything else you want to add to this topic? I know we're right about our time here. We've had to do a short one today. Anything else that comes to mind you want to add?
No, let's end it punctually.
Yeah, we're ending punctually. Yeah. So listener, whoever asked this question, I hope it was valuable. And even if you, dear listener, are not taking over a brand new gym, I think some of the things we mentioned here are so valuable as you yourself hire, manage new people, or you're building managers in your business, making sure that they are coming in and doing all the things we talked about, leading with humility, asking questions, celebrating wins, getting to know people first. Like all of that, I think is just a best practice for any new manager in any context. So thanks for this chat, Pete. Listeners, if you found this valuable, please leave us a 5-star review everywhere you listen and email us, pete@businessunicorns.com, michael@businessunicorns.com. Let us know who you want us to talk to on this podcast next or what topics you want us to cover. You can ask us questions. We'll answer them right here on the podcast. Have a kick-ass day, Pete. See you all in the next one.
Likewise. Go sign up for the email.